The concert hall was silent, yet heavy with anticipation, as the spotlight gently illuminated the fragile figure slowly approaching the grand piano. His back slightly hunched with the weight of nearly a century of memories, his hands thin and trembling yet purposeful, the 98-year-old Hiroshima survivor lowered himself carefully onto the piano bench. His name was Mr. Kenji Takahashi, and though his body bore the unmistakable wear of age and trauma, his spirit radiated a quiet strength. His frail fingers hovered above the ivory keys as the room held its collective breath. Beside him sat a young girl, no older than 10, whose small hands rested nervously in her lap. She was his great-granddaughter, Aiko, and today they would play a duet. Not just a performance, but a communion of generations, a passing of memory from one heart to another. The first note rang out like a whisper to the past, soft but certain, and as the melody unfolded, time seemed to collapse. The haunting notes drifted through the hall, speaking without words of a morning in August 1945, when the skies over Hiroshima blazed and the world changed forever. In that moment, music became memory, and memory became music. Kenji's eyes, half closed, were not looking at the keys. They were seeing something far beyond the walls of the auditorium. He saw the sunlit street where he once played marbles with his younger brother, the mother calling him home for breakfast, the laughter of children echoing between wooden houses, all of it swallowed in an instant by a flash brighter than the sun. The sound of the duet rose, harmonizing youth and age, grief and grace. Aiko's notes were light, curious and searching, while Kenji's chords were deep, deliberate, filled with ache and remembrance. Together, they wove a tapestry of sorrow and hope that stunned the audience into stillness. Tears streamed down, cheeks unashamedly, not just for the pain of a lost generation, but for the extraordinary endurance of a man who had carried that pain for decades and chose not bitterness, but beauty. As the final note lingered and faded, the silence that followed was profound, sacred even. The crowd rose not in applause alone, but in reverence, their ovation a collective embrace of a survivor's soul laid bare through music. Cameras captured the moment. The video rippled across the world in hours. In every corner of the globe, people paused to watch the old man and the child, two souls separated by time, united in truth. There were no subtitles, no spoken explanations. The music was enough. In South America, an aging musician whispered, "I have seen sorrow made into song." In Europe, a war refugee said, "I see myself in him." In Africa, a young pianist cried as he shared the video with his blind grandfather, describing every detail. In America, a teacher played the video in class, and not a single student looked away. For Kenji, however, the attention meant little. After the performance in a quiet room backstage, he wrote a letter in his slow, careful hand. It was addressed not to the world, but to his younger brother, Hiro, who had been only 6 when the bomb took him away. "Dear Hiro," it began, "today I played our lullaby. Do you remember it? Mama used to hum it before we fell asleep. I played it with Aiko. She is as curious as you were, and brave too. When I sat at the piano, I thought of your laughter, and the way you always insisted on playing the high notes. I hope you heard us." The letter continued, not as a document for history, but as a conversation between brothers separated by fate, united by memory. "They call me a survivor, but sometimes I wonder if it was you who was spared. The fear, the silence, the years of remembering. But today, for the first time, the music felt like healing. Not forgetting, no, never that, but healing." Outside, Aiko waited patiently, her hands still tingling with the memory of the keys. When Kenji joined her, she looked up and said simply, "Great-grandpa, did you hear them clapping?" He smiled, a slow and gentle curve that softened his lined face. "Yes, Aiko, But I was listening to something else." She tilted her head, curious. "What were you listening to?" He placed a trembling hand over his heart. "To the voices of the past, and to yours, beside me." That night, as he lay in bed, Kenji closed his eyes to the quiet hum of distant city sounds. In his mind, the duet played again, over and over, not as performance, but as prayer. A prayer of peace, of remembrance, of forgiveness. And in dreams, he stood on the banks of the Ota River, where he once fished with his father. The sky above him not red with fire, but blue and full of birds. His mother sang softly nearby, and little Hero ran through tall grass, calling for him to come play. There was no siren, no scream, no ash, only the sound of a piano floating through the breeze, carrying a message from the living to the lost. "We remember you, we honor you, and through music we carry you forward." In the days that followed, the video continued to spread, and messages flooded in from all parts of the world. Letters arrived from strangers, Holocaust survivors, children of war veterans, peace activists, and musicians, each one touched by the truth of that moment. Some spoke of the sorrow they had long buried. Others said the duet inspired them to reconcile with their past. One young girl in Syria wrote, "I want to learn piano so I can play my story too." A Japanese journalist asked Kenji what he hoped the world would learn from his performance. He thought for a long time before replying, "That memory is not a burden if it leads to peace. That pain can be turned into something beautiful if we choose to share it, and that even the smallest hands," he glanced at Aiko, "can carry the light of hope." The journalist wept as she nodded, understanding that she had not just interviewed a man, but had witnessed a legacy being passed on in the most tender, powerful way. Months later, a concert was organized titled Notes of Remembrance, featuring intergenerational duets from survivors of global tragedies playing alongside youth. Kenji and Aiko were invited to play again. This time, they ended their performance with an original piece composed together, Aiko's bright melodies dancing over Kenji's somber harmonies. They named it Hero's Song. It was not just music, it was history, memory, love, and forgiveness bound into melody. As the audience once again rose in thunderous applause, Kenji turned to Aiko and whispered, "Now they know our story." And across the world, from cities of steel to villages of clay, hearts beat a little softer, a little more aware. For in the hands of a 98-year-old man who had seen the end of the world, and in the hands of a child who would inherit it, music had become a bridge, not only between generations, but between grief and grace, silence and song, death and life.